It's good to see everybody. So today, obviously, we're going to be doing a presentation of In Our Own Voice. And it is a presentation that's designed by NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, to dispel some of the myths and misconceptions and stereotypes that surround mental health and mental health conditions, and more specifically, the people who live with these mental health conditions, like Reg and I do, which is why we're here today. So my name is Nick, and I am the Director of Outreach and Development for NAMI Bucks County, PA, and that is a distinct privilege. And I'm also privileged to be joined today by Reginald Howard. Reg, do you prefer to be called Reg, Reggie, or Reginald today? What do you
Whichever one don't get me in trouble, I'm used to it.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Reg.
Hi, I am Reggie Howard. I'm one of the volunteers for NAMI Bucks County, and I don't know what else you want me to introduce, Nick, but
You're humble, so I'll do a better job of introducing you when we come time for you to share your story. So but just thank you for being here today, and thank everyone for joining us today. It's really nice to see so many people here joining us live on Zoom. So for everyone who's just joining us, I just want to let you know we're going to be streaming this live on Facebook, and we are recording it to post to YouTube later and maybe things like that. So this is, again, In Our Own Voice, a presentation designed to dispel all the stigmas and stereotypes and myths about mental health conditions, and those of us who live with them, and maybe your family member who lives with a mental health condition. So first, I just want to tell you a little bit about NAMI and who we are and what we do. NAMI is a national organization, and it's based in Arlington, Virginia. We in Bucks County are an affiliate, a local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And we have a state organization based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, NAMI Keystone, Pennsylvania. And we all work together to bring education, support, and advocacy programs. And we're dedicated to improving the lives of individuals and families and everyone affected by mental health conditions. We're a grassroots organization. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And through the generosity of our county here in Bucks County, our donors and our supporters and our sponsors of events, we're able to bring you programs like this and our support programs and education programs completely free of charge. And like I said, it's a privilege to be able to lead an organization like this, along with our executive director, Debbie Moritz, and our board of directors. We have quite a few distinguished individuals who govern our organization here in Bucks County. So I just want to take a second also to introduce you to somebody who I wish could be here today. This is Dr. Brene Brown, and she is actually, I won't tell you who she is. Look her up. If you don't know who Brene Brown is, just Google Brene Brown, watch some of her TED Talks on courage and vulnerability and shame, and maybe, you know, have a bit better understanding of your own humanity, as I did when I watched her. One of my favorite quotes, though, is about vulnerability. And she tells us that vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. So Reg and I are here speaking to you today and being vulnerable and sharing our stories. It's scary to do that. It's not easy to do that, which is why I feel so lucky to have Reg here with me today. And she goes on to say that vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. So Today's stories are going to be about our dark times, our dark days, what helped, what maybe didn't help quite so much, and our path to recovery, which for some of us is pretty shaky. And when you're living with a mental health condition, since we're not born with knowledge of what mental health is or how it looks or feels, when it's happening, it can be really scary. And when you tell your story of lived experience, recalling that can take you through it again. And it's just not the easiest thing to do. So we appreciate your acknowledgement of our sharing our vulnerability today. So before we get started, and we'll get started with Reggie's story first, and then I'll share my story with you. I would be remiss if I didn't let you know about the impact that COVID has had on everyone's mental health. And in a survey that NAMI did, 74% of the individuals that we surveyed say that they have challenges with maintaining their routine throughout this pandemic. 80% said that they struggled with focus and motivation. 1 in 5 individuals before the pandemic live with a mental health condition or were diagnosed with one each year. And they woke up every morning, like Reg and I, and probably some of you who are listening today, woke up every morning knowing that we live with a mental health condition. And another purpose of today's presentation is to show you that although not all of our days are good days, every day we wake up knowing we have a mental health condition and we choose recovery, we choose to do the next right thing, and we choose to speak about our lived experience so that no one else feels alone. So mid-pandemic, during this pandemic, Harvard conducted a study and found that 2 in 5 individuals now in this pandemic live with a mental health condition. I'd just like you to bear in mind too, and you know if you live with a mental health condition, how hard it is sometimes to get help and to even know that you need help. And you also know how hard it is to actually get that help once you do know that you need it and you go and look for it. So this is just reported. So this is what's reported. So 2 in 5 individuals live with a mental health condition, and this is in America. 3 in 5 individuals, though, report significant symptoms of anxiety and depression in this pandemic. So that is pretty significant. So if you had a group of 5 people, 3 of us would say we have significant symptoms of anxiety and depression currently. And I would just have to be honest with you, Reg and I were having a conversation right before we started this presentation, and we talked about the struggles and the struggles of working in the mental health field during a pandemic when everyone is struggling. So we try to take care of ourselves too. And then the other thing that we have to understand is that 100% of human beings have mental health. So if you have a brain, you have mental health, and that sounds basic, but when we present in schools, Reg and I present for a program called Ending the Silence, which is a similar lived experience and education program to In Our Own Voice. We ask the kids, raise your hand if you have mental health, and nobody raises their hand. Mental health and mental illness are 2 different things. And a lot of people don't really get that. So, you know, you don't have to have a mental illness in order to struggle with your mental health. And, you know, a perfectly healthy human being with a great childhood, no problems, you know, can as an adult struggle with their mental health, or early in adulthood, or as a teenager, or as an adolescent. So no one is immune to a mental health condition. No one is immune to a struggle that comes with your mental health. And mental health affects everything in your life, and everything in your life affects your mental health. So the problem right now, though, the biggest one that I see is that 55% of the people that we surveyed don't know where to go for help with their mental health. That is something that Reg and I work on every single day. And our executive director, Debbie, and Lori, who runs our Ending the Silence program, and our board. We have so many people dedicated to spreading awareness and education, but still some people who need the help don't know where to go, over half. And a lot don't get it. So to show you what we've been doing during this pandemic, in 2019, I was so excited that we had 1,800 participants in our support groups. And then in 2020, we had 10,000, over 10,000. So I should be excited about that, but I'm tired. Debbie's tired, Reggie's tired. And we wouldn't be able to do this without our support group facilitators, who are incredible. Another thing that Reggie and I were talking about, dedicated individuals. These programs are peer run. So everybody who leads a program, a support group or an education program, or even NAMI as a whole, lives with a mental health condition. We're peers. So we've been there. But these individuals who run our support groups are amazing and impactful and change people's lives. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do at all. So if you'd like to meet some of them, we have support groups that are available every single day, not all of them every day, but most of them. General wellness and recovery groups, anxiety groups, depression groups, LGBTQ groups, parent groups, family groups, women's groups, Black Minds Matter. These are all groups that were created as safe spaces for individuals who so identify to come and share their experiences in a judgment-free environment and receive the support of their peers and our peer leaders in a safe and confidential space. And they're free. So earlier today, we just had a women's group. Later today, we'll have one of the peer groups. And one of the groups that we introduced is called Alternatives to Suicide, which is focused on the reasons we stay alive despite feelings of overwhelm and not wanting to be here anymore. So take a look at our website if you'd like to get involved or to attend a support group or an education program, which we have 2 education programs beginning in March, peer-to-peer and family-to-family. There are recovery-focused programs that teach you how to advocate for yourself or a loved one and how to find and stay in recovery and live a full and productive life with a mental health condition. So we also have, as our partner, a community support program at Bucks County that joins us in our advocacy efforts. And they are, if anybody is in need and qualifies, giving out laptops as part of their iGate program, which I am so proud of AJ, our CSP coordinator, for launching that program. It's much needed. So anybody who needs to access telehealth services or support groups can do so and apply at cspbucks.org. And we have our monthly newsletter. Here's the pink and the green. I try to make them cute, so you look at them, our schedules of support groups that I put out monthly for February and March. We have QPR trainings in partnership with our Bucks County Suicide Prevention Task Force. We have forums monthly that talk about topics of interest to our members and all of you who join us and support us. And then here is the advertisement for our classes that start in March. So I think, we've been doing quite a bit during this pandemic. But one thing that we haven't done quite as much of is share our full stories with you. And so I was anxious to get Reg to come and share his story with us. I know in the beginning, he didn't know how to introduce himself, but Reg leads our Black Minds Matter support groups. He's trained to lead all of our support groups. He has a podcast. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's a certified peer specialist. He sits on panels. He is a dad. He is gonna be a husband soon. Um, he speaks at our walk. He is, a loving son and a genuinely good human being. And he's my friend. And I'm lucky to have him. So I'm going to introduce you to Reggie Howard.
You see, that's why I couldn't do it, because even as you talked, I'm like, man, that get bubbles in my stomach, because I'm like, oh, that's like blushing, and it almost comes out like bragging. So I just like leave it alone, and I'm like, I'm just a regular person that want to help the people. And so thank you, Nick. Thank you all for joining today. Thank you for being here, because it is a special thing, because I've been working with NAMI Bucks maybe for about almost a year now. And I don't think even this is the first time me and Nick have actually heard each other's stories in its entirety. Um, and so it definitely is time to have that conversation. And like you said, right before we got on, one of the gifts and curse of the pandemic is we're set up to have these type of conversation, but it's overwhelming. So I couldn't be here right now without being honest and saying, like, I was overwhelmed, I was stressed, I was a little depressed even before coming into this, and having the conversation with Nick, because I'm like, man, I'm just stressed, pulled in too many different directions. I don't know if I'm going to lose my job or not. I don't know, what's going on. And it brought me to a position of like, I had to like give myself the space to take care of my mental health. And so I'm definitely excited to have this conversation, because I can go into some of the story. Like even now, I told Nick I haven't even spoken in a while, because I just was going through so many things. So you guys get the first instances of me getting back into like trying to speak and share my story and the things that brought me here. So hopefully today I'll be able to share some things of how I manage my mental health. You guys can get to hear like my journey through recovery. I try not to say to recovery, because it's an ongoing process, as we all know, and it's something that continuously happens. And gain understanding about a misunderstood topic. It's a lot of myths and a lot of different things that I had to learn before. I'm like, wait, this is mental health. Like I didn't know everyone had mental health. And one of the tips I think I learned through NAMI is, if you replace mental health with physical health, it makes a lot more sense. Everybody got physical health. We all got bodies. So we all got brains that need to be taken care of just as well. And then at the end of it all, I hope through me and Nick's presentation of our stories and sharing everything that NAMI do, we can continue to offer hope to heal. So who is this guy? Like Nick said, I'm a family guy. I'm engaged to be a husband. We need to start. We said this year we're not gonna make it engaged anymore. We'll make it official, especially because we got together in 2011, and so we wanted to do it on the 10-year anniversary. Like, all right, we got to stop playing. But during the presentation, you'll understand why it took so long for us to get to this point, because it was different trials and errors that got us to that space. For me, I try to be like the voice for the voiceless. I try to give like I studied communication in college, and so I try to compute information and put it out there to the people, because some people go through these feelings and go through these situations, but they don't know how to articulate in a way where it can convey what they're feeling and how and the messages that they're saying. I put day job and night job, but as it's a lot of different roles that I go into. But as far as day job, like quote unquote, I am a community engagement specialist for a health center under Drexel University. So I reach out into the community and try to offer different things. Also work for another organization that provides free therapy, and then podcasts, anything to different ways and different mediums to serve the community. So, and again, that last point is I am for the community. I'm for try to be for the people. It started off and it still is a voice for like the Black community, the youth and things like that. But as I grow and as I start to learn more, it's starting to become more for the mental health community. And it is for the mental health community to put those stigmas to bed and to try to offer more information about, again, a misunderstood topic. You can go to the next slide, Nick. All right, running a red light. That's I try to give a title to it because it really does. That's what all I remember, and it changed. Running a red light changed the trajectory of my story in a drastic way. You can go ahead, Nick. And so running a red light comes from a situation where 2018, Someone ran a red light and they knocked me from the driver's side to the passenger side of a vehicle. And it's because they ran a red light, of course, and I had to go through leg surgery. That my bone popped out of my leg. Had my hand messed up. You can't see, but it's still a scar on there. But they had to put a little SIM card size plate in there because I messed up my finger. And it just really changed the trajectory because before that I was doing so many different things and I had to wind up in physical therapy. So not only had I go through regular therapy, I was in physical therapy and still recovering to this day from it because even though it happened in 2018, I'm not as fast to go through red lights or not red lights, stop signs because that came out of nowhere. I had the green light, someone hit me, and now I'm like almost like scared to drive at certain times. Like my family is scared to drive at certain times, or for me to drive at certain times. But it was on top of what I was already going through. I was already going through therapy, and I have 3 therapists right now. A psychiatrist. I'm gonna make sure a couples counselor. That's the part with the if we're getting married or not, and then the regular psychiatrist, regular counselor, and a couples counselor. There we go. And I have a diagnosis now of anxiety, undisclosed, unspecified case of anxiety, and major depression disorder. I am on medication for both, and again, that's still my journey to recovery right now. So some of the things that helped me with my journey to recovery is I developed something called the skeleton of a good day. And it's basically like the bare bone minimum of what make to have a good day looks like for me. Because sometimes we get overwhelmed. Like again, me and Nick were speaking earlier. Like I had to get all of the things I thought was helping with my mental health out of the picture and go back to the bare basics of all right, am I spending enough time with the kids? Am I going over my goals and dreams and aspirations? Am I spending enough time within the relationship? Am I eating right? Am I exercising? But those bare bone minimum of a good day is the things that I use that help me still do my journey of recovery. I don't want to be here anymore. That is a significant quote because that is something that it really kick-started me getting into mental health and knowing like, wait, I just don't feel good as to like, no, there's something that I need to get help for. You can go, Nick. And that started early on when I was having my first son. I didn't have any, when I found out that I was having one, I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a car. I was still living in my mom's house, so I didn't have anywhere to live. And I just knew this guy was coming and I wasn't prepared. And so it started to make me think back to my childhood, like, where's my dad at? Why isn't my dad in my life? Why is my mother raising us 2 children on her own without any help? And it brought on such anger, stress, and I became what I now know is depressed. And when I heard the commercials of like, are you feeling down? Are you feeling depressed? Are you thinking of having suicidal ideation? I'm like, that's some soccer mom problem. Like that definitely couldn't, be speaking to me. That's nothing that relates to me. And then once I went through therapy and things, it was like, man, I felt everything that they saying in that commercial. Like those are things that was actually talking to me. And so now I'm able to express and share like these things now. But before I didn't know that I wasn't going through it. It wasn't until I went to therapy that I found out I had 3 different suicide attempts. And I'm like, wait, I just know I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't know that was considered a suicide attempt. And even within the Black community, I was sharing that with someone. They was like, they didn't even know that would be considered. They just knew it was going through things and they just didn't want to be here. Like that suicide was almost like regardless of like a farthest thing from our mind. But going back to the story about my son, I found myself on a bridge during that time. And luckily someone pulled me from it. It was my best friend. He pulled me from the bridge, but that still didn't fix any of the problems that I was having with the job, the car, the living with my mom. And so that's where the second suicide attempt came in. And I found myself just taking a bunch of pills that I found. And I woke up to my godmother calling me and knocking on the door because before I found myself on the bridge, I texted a bunch of friends and family told them to take care of my son. I don't want to be here anymore. And fortunately, the one friend came and got me off the bridge when she got that message. And then when I woke up, I heard my godmother knocking on the door, trying to make sure I was okay, because she woke up and she found those messages early in the morning. And that's when I knew I was something was going on, because what I now know is what I was on suicide watch. And but again, because there's such a stigma, no one took me to the hospital, no one took me to get a counselor, no one took, because they either it was far beneath of their knowledge of that's what you should do, or because it's like, we don't want you to have all of these different stigmas on you when you're going to the hospital and things like that. And so it definitely was something that I look back on now early on, and see that, you know what, that was a big part of my journey, and why I ended up to that place, because of lack of education and stigma. You can go to the next slide, Nick. Again, these are certain things and tips that I did learn once I started doing research. Again, even after being on suicide watch, I didn't get into counseling. I didn't get into therapy. I started just doing research and Googling, and again, coming across things like NAMI, and learning tips and tricks and things like that. And that's when I developed what I called my power hour, where it's 60 minutes. 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of journaling, 20 minutes of meditating. The 20 minutes of reading fills me up, new ideas, learning new thoughts, changing thought patterns, things like that, and getting new information. Journaling helps me pour out. It helps me, get things that I may not share, and have conversations with other people, or even with a therapist. I get it out. And then meditating helps me reflect on all of my thoughts. It helps me, really thinking about what I'm thinking about. And it sounded crazy to me when I first started about it. Like, I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about. Like that's I don't even understand what that means. But now I know, like, wait, that it's these different neurons and things happening in your brain, and you have to kind of guide them to what they're thinking about. And so that definitely is something that I use to this moment. I got my book right here, what I'm reading, Atomic Habits, and my journaling right here. So I'm trying to be the proof in the pudding of, like, this is something that I try to put in action every single day. You can go to the next slide, Nick. Growing up in poverty, which I didn't think was, again, you don't know what you don't know that you don't know, and how it played into your mental health and how it wasn't until I started to look back on the trajectory of how I got to where I got to today, of how much that played a part. And so, as you can see in the pictures, that I was a bit of a, nerd. Reading is still cool to me. Before, when I was in school, it wasn't cool, but it's still cool. And these people, they bullied me out of taking it to be cool. But again, even being bullied almost, um, I didn't realize that was a traumatic situation of, like, man, I was afraid to come to school, or being picked on for not having the latest pairs of clothes. And I included this in there because I share this with the students all the time, of that you have to reach out, because there are organizations like In the Silence that come in and talk to the school, like, hey, they give you these little cards that say either talk to the counselor, call us, or whoever your case may be. And these organizations exist, but we really don't think that anyone cares in that moment. So I definitely try to tell the students all the time to make sure you reach out when you're going through certain things. This was something that I developed out of quarantine. I know when we all first started quarantine and the pandemic first started, no one knew what was going on. And I don't know about everyone else, but the days just ran together at some point. Like, it was like, there was no start work and end work. There was no one knew what was going on. So I had to provide some type of structure um, in my life to help me get these things done. It's similar to the skeleton of a good day, but I wanted to get active and get productive, and because the quarantine and all of that stuff it was driving me crazy, being inside and going, trying to figure out whatever I'm going to do myself the same day over and over. And I didn't realize how much the pandemic was affecting my mental health. So the 9 before 9 was 9 things that you could do before 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. to say that, you know what, I got things accomplished that day. Because if not, the day will go on and it's like, man, I did all that today. No, that was Tuesday and it's Saturday and you didn't do anything that you thought you did, because now the days are running together. And so I don't use it as much because we're starting to get back to a norm, but I thought it was still a good tip, because you can use that with anything, 9 before 9 p.m. or use it throughout, on your days moving forward. racial trauma. Now, this was something that was developed out of everything that happened last year, and I credit Nick and Nami and Deb and even Lori just challenged me. She was like, "Hey, you don't want to use anything. Have you ever experienced anything, any racial trauma?" And I haven't even thought about it until, like, again, all of these things is like I put on the that it's just normal. Like that's just how it is. Even with growing up in poverty, even with all of these different things, it just felt like some type of normal. Like this, that couldn't be anything that affects. So I like to say now that before I used to categorize racial trauma as a handicap, whereas a person that has a missing limb doesn't focus on the limb that they're missing. They focus on the one that they do have and operating within it. And so I'm like, yeah, I already know I'm going to get discriminated against in certain situation. Oh, yeah, I already know these things, but I'm not going to focus on it. But that didn't make it right. And so I feel like by ignoring it, I kind of fed into the structure of it being right, if that makes sense. And so I had to, and I said the first point of race being a handicap, but all of these terms that I put on this slide was covert, over. I didn't know them before last year. No space for race, microaggressions, all of these different things. Again, I went through them. I've experienced them. Oh, you're smart for dark skin, or even Nick. And I'll use our example. How we met the first time me and Nick met, it was something that I felt was racially charged, and Nick, we had a conversation behind, and I give him his credit. We had that conversation, and he was like, "Well, you don't have to worry about that. Here, we'll have this, and we'll move forward." And it's been he's every word that he says has been up to the space, and that no space for race. I feel like in that moment, Nick made space for race in that moment, and it was a leading example of how things should be moving forward. But again, I tried not to focus on it because I thought that's just how things are. Like I just take it for as it is. You go next, Nick. And these were certain things that I again use with the students. The first one you can't really see, but it's a neat activity about how you can see where you're at when in regards to your outlook on race and things like that. You start off with your racial identity as the first bead color, and then each number you go through each one and see and use a different color bead color if you're, and I can't explain it right. It's more of an activity. It's one of those shown more than, and I need to put a video here, but it's more so it shows your outlook on race and how much influence that you have on it. Is you start with your color, and then how many other colors are included in what you read, what you listen to, and what you experience, who you're around, and you'll really get to see a visual representation of, man, I'm only looking at race from one perspective. But I wanted to read this because I ain't got a pencil, because that goes back to what I talked about with the poverty. But again, I didn't even think that it played a part of what people experience in traumatic situation as a normal, and not realizing how much it plays on your mental health. So cause I ain't got a pencil, by Joshua Dickerson. I woke myself up because we ain't got an alarm clock. Dug in the dirty clothes basket cause ain't nobody washed my uniform. Brushed my hair and teeth in the dark cause the lights ain't on. Even got my baby sister ready cause my mama wasn't home. Got us both to school on time to eat us a good breakfast. Then when I got to class, the teacher fussed because I ain't got a pencil. And just think about all of those things that plays a part into, like, I got to worry about all this in my mind, and you're just fussing on me because I didn't have a pencil, but you don't even know what it took for me to get here. And that goes back to the bead activity of how are you looking at race when you're looking at somebody and what they're going through in their mental health. And now what's next for me is to continue my journey through recovery, and continue having conversations like this within our voice and in the silence and wherever else Nick allows me to travel with him on my journey. And continue to try to put a spotlight on mental health, especially Black mental health, but the whole conversation, the community at large with the mental health community, and really bringing a spotlight on, like, no, this is just as important as any other condition out there, and we really need to continue to have this conversation. And I hope you got to learn how I cope with mental health. Learned a little bit about my story through recovery. gain some insight about a heavy subject, and again, keep offering hope to heal through NAMI, Bucks County, PA.
Well, thank you, Reg. Thank you for sharing all that. Um, I thank you for all that credit, but I'm gonna throw a lot of it back to you. You know, it's, I mean, you're you. So, and also just, we're lucky to have you with us and in this organization. And I don't really feel like we'd be whole if you weren't here. So, you know, thank you for all you do and all you do for us and all you do for people like us who live with mental health conditions. Some questions came through, and we'll go through those at the end, Reg, if you're still up for it.
Yes, sir.
But before I go to my presentation, mine doesn't have quite as many words in it. It's a lot of pictures, and then I'll talk to you. I do want to say, though, and I want to make it abundantly clear, that if we don't include those experiences, you know, with our Black community and with people of color talking about mental health, we don't have all of mental health if Black mental health isn't included in that. So you, Reg, are welcome anywhere I go, anytime. You're busy though, so you know it depends on your schedule.
Anytime you call me, like, I'm always here.
Well, thank you again, Reg. You're awesome. So and also, by the way, down at the bottom of this slide is Reggie's website, reginaldahoward.com. Here's his email, reginaldahoward@gmail.com. And on social media, I tag him in the NAMI posts, but it's Reginald Howard, Reginald A. Howard, if you want to find him on social media. He's not going to tell you that stuff, but that's probably what you want to go and look at. So I wouldn't be offended if you left right now and went to look. It's cool with me. Again, my name's Nick. For anybody who just came in, I'm a less cool version of Reggie, and I get to follow him in this presentation. But you know, no matter what you see when you look at both of us, our stories are pretty similar. There's some differences, there's some similarities, but just like all of you will have different experiences with your own mental health, you know, there's a lot of things that we have in common too. So whenever you feel like you're alone, or if your loved one feels like they're alone, I hope you think back to today, and to the point where we both started, where we felt like we were completely alone. I'm going to start my story at a place where I was most ashamed. It was my darkest time. And if I start to get upset, I'm going to make myself feel better by letting you know that my boss Debbie, her favorite band is Pink Floyd, and in this picture, I have a Pink Floyd shirt on. Um, so if you know me now, it might be hard to understand that there was once a time that I was nobody like who I am now. I'm sober, I'm 5 years sober. But there was a time that I couldn't get through the day without drinking, without taking drugs. And I couldn't get through the day without a thought of ending my own life all the time. I was obsessed with it. So this is a picture of me. It's a New Hope, actually. And it's me holding a drink, and it's me at the height of an eating disorder. It's me not sober. It is, I weighed like 140 pounds in this picture. And I'm a person that went to extremes, as you'll see later in this presentation. But this is my unhappiest time. And my only way of faking it to show other people that I was okay and I was fun was to not be sober. Um, and it's amazing to me. It'll always be amazing to me. I'm busy a lot of the time, so I don't think about it often. But it's amazing that I went from this to your mental health superhero, NAMI man. um, and I'm gonna share my secret with you today. You know, that I tell, you know, nobody knows that I'm NAMI man. To tell you that I'm only NAMI man and a mental health superhero because I lived through every single thing I thought I couldn't. I never thought that I could get sober. I never thought that I would want to be alive, and I never thought that I would do anything good. So if you know me now, I think a lot of people forget that NAMI is run by peers. But if you talk to me again in the future, just remember that I went through a lot too. So I had a really good childhood and I was allowed to be my little goofy self. And I had this goofy haircut, and this is probably like a picture in that portrait studio at Sears or something on the right hand side. And on the left hand side, my mom was awesome, and she used to like let me dress like this and stuff. And then you wonder, right? If you ever get me in a real serious moment, just remind me that there's this picture in my presentation. But it's, you know, I had a good childhood. We didn't have the most money. We didn't have the least money. You know, it was good. It was my mom loved me. You know, she took great care of us. My dad worked a lot. He owned restaurants, so I didn't see him all that often. But, you know, all in all, if you investigated my life, you would look at my childhood and think, oh, he's going to grow up to be great with no problems whatsoever. That wasn't how it worked out. I got into school years after that really good childhood. And, you know, elementary school was fine up until like second, third grade, when I just got bullied really badly. And you know, Reg says too, and that's a great analogy. Like, you know, if you lose a limb, you don't focus on the limb you lost, you focus on, you know, amplifying your other abilities with what you do have. And so that's what I tried to do for a really long time. But despite my best efforts, all this bullying was so bad that it made me feel like I was insignificant, unimportant, and truthfully, like my whole life was a mistake. And so the first thought I had of suicide, which without the words to express it, was in second grade. Because I remember thinking, I really shouldn't be here and I don't belong here. So I made it through school somehow, and this is a picture of me at my high school graduation. But the way I made it through was to eat quite a bit. Well, you don't have drugs and alcohol when you're a little kid, but you can eat, and eating can make you feel better, and you can use that as a coping skill. And you could do it too much, and it can turn into a negative coping mechanism. And you know, I would hide food and eat food, and I gained a lot of weight, and I was the fat little kid. And my mom always told me that she loved me, but nobody else seemed to want to do anything with me but just make me the butt of all the jokes, and basically just kind of torment me. But I got to high school, and I figured out that people would like me if I could change the way I looked, maybe. So I stopped eating, and I developed an eating disorder. I would wake up really early in the morning and exercise until I had to go to school. And I would not eat until I was about to pass out. And when I did eat, I would eat stuff without fat in it. I was obsessed with the fat content of foods. A lot of people with eating disorders, it's calories. For me, I don't know. It was the fat content. So I would eat fat-free things only when I was about to pass out. And I got really skinny. Like in this picture, this is high school. And I also had blonde tips in my hair. So that's not part of my mental health journey, everybody. So that was a decision that that I made when I was completely okay. I thought I looked good, but whatever. So in this, I was about to go to school in Boston. And I went to school in Boston because I wanted to get out of here. I was born in Bucks County in Levittown, and I needed to get away from everything that was pulling me down. And so I went to Boston, and I got to Boston and I realized that I had no idea what I was doing. And I was far away from this woman in this picture who I didn't realize until I wasn't with her was my best friend. Through everything that happened to me in school, which I think I do downplay it a little bit. It was pretty tragic. But through everything I went through, my mom was always there. And she always loved me. And she was very pretty and cool. And I was not. So I always wondered why she loved me. But she did. And I was far away from her. And I didn't realize until I got to college that all the stuff I had been feeling, like Reggie talked about, was anxiety and depression and, panic a lot of the time when you feel like you're going to pass out because you're not really breathing. And, just depression where you can force yourself to do things, but, and you do things and you look functional, but you're depressed. I didn't know how is anybody supposed to know this stuff? In my family, we didn't talk about it. If you had to cry, you did it by yourself in your room. If it was my dad who was around, he would say, I'll give you something to cry about. Or he would say, man up or suck it up. And so those are the mental health lessons that I had when I was young. So when I got through school and I came home and I got a job, at a big company and had a lot of responsibility and couldn't take it, I didn't know what to do. I learned in college that you could drink and smoke things and take drugs. And that would make you less anxious and not depressed and able to talk to people. But my uncle had a drug problem, and everyone in the family, he was the junkie. He also had schizophrenia, but nobody referred to that. They just called him a drug addict and a junkie, and he was a waste. So I was really afraid of turning into that, but as long as I was productive, I wasn't. And so when I got that job, I thought I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I couldn't take it. The only thing I knew that worked at that time was the drugs and alcohol, so I turned back to it. And before I knew it, I had a huge opiate problem. And it wasn't, I never injected anything, but it was pills. And so I also didn't consider it a drug problem if it was pills. Isn't that weird? I don't know why, but I didn't, until the one day somebody called opiates in pill form yuppie heroin. And I thought, oh my God. And so I remember trying to detox myself a couple times and couldn't do it. And then I was, just going about my business, and I couldn't hack it. I came home to my mom, and she put me to bed. I was having what felt like a nervous breakdown. I woke up in the morning. I felt better. I was at home with my mom, and when I woke up in the morning, my mom made this noise, and I just knew that something was wrong. And she's my mom was my best friend. So there was like a connection. And I looked out to see what had happened and I didn't see her. And I said, Mom, and she didn't answer me. And I went out and I said, Mom, and this is in a Levittown house. So um, I went out into the living room from my bedroom and she was face down on the ground and she wasn't breathing. And I rolled her over and she had knocked her teeth out. I pulled her teeth out of her throat. I gave her CPR. And she started breathing again, but she never woke up. And they took her to Lower Bucks Hospital. They flew her to Jefferson Hospital, and they told us that she had had a brain aneurysm and that we should still have hope and I should go back to work and stuff. And they'd do a surgery, and they did, and wasn't looking too good. And then I one day I got a call that said we have to take your mom off life support. And I passed out, and somebody drove me to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, I wasn't sober. And everyone was around my mom's bed, and a priest came in, or a pastor, or whatever's in the hospital. And we said last rites around the bed, and he opened the window so that her soul could leave. And I just knew I couldn't live through this. I, like Reggie, didn't really have the words to say suicide. And, if somebody asked me if I was thinking about killing myself, I probably would have said no. Because it just feels like you can't get through it. It doesn't feel like suicide, but that's what it was. And I made it a couple months after my mom died, and on her birthday, I went to work. I said goodbye to everybody, and I came home and I did what I had to do to end my life. And I had a substance use problem, so you could probably assume that that's what I used to end my life. And I woke up 3 days later, and I was so mad. But I got called in because there was an emergency at work, and I drove up the turnpike and I went to work. And the company that I worked for happened to be a pharmacy, and that happened to be where I got what I needed to end my life. And that happens to be against the law. So I also happened to get arrested in front of everybody. And you'd think that that would be the lowest point. But one of the lowest points was getting walked out in handcuffs in front of all my employees, getting fingerprinted and mugshots taken, and the police officers making fun of me, saying, "This is what you don't want your life to be. Go home and talk to your kids." And if there was something in that jail cell that I could have used to end my life, I would have. But you know me now. So I'm still me now, but I didn't know where I was going. And I was in that jail cell with a bunch of potential inside of me, and all this, like, I knew maybe something good would come out of my life, but how do I get there? And so that's so discouraging. So I was court ordered to go to treatment, and it was a drug and alcohol rehab. And I got through that, and I came home and I thought, you know what, people like me aren't good people. And so I tried to end my life again. And same way, my dad found me that time. I went in and out and in and out and in and out of hospitals. My whole family was done with me at that point. Nothing good was ever going to come of my life. And so I just gave up, and I started acting like everyone thought I was as a person. I was behaving badly. I was drinking all the time again because, like Reggie, mental health treatment, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with a therapist. I didn't know what to do with a psychiatrist. I mean, they gave me a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, and that's my diagnosis. And I also have OCD and all the other fun stuff that comes with it that I've learned to live with and make my superpowers as NAMI man. But then I didn't know, and I was scared, and I was uninformed. And so I wasted therapy appointments. I took these meds, and I just didn't know what I was doing, but I knew alcohol worked. So I would I would go out to the bar and drink with my medication, come home in a blackout. I was living with my dad at the time. I was on disability. That was depressing in and of itself for me. Um, and My dad had enough of me at one point, and we used to get into physical fights. He would fight me, and I would wake up in the morning and be, bloody. And it just wasn't going to get any better. It just wasn't. And so one morning I woke up, and this time someone had thrown my bedroom door open, like broke it down. And I thought, oh my God. And I was startled by that, but I was more startled by the fact that someone was screaming at me, Nick, your dad is dead. Nick, your dad is dead. And I thought, there's no possible way that that could happen, because my mom was 55 when she died. My dad was 10 years younger. He's 55 right now. He can't be dead. And I went into his room, and he was. And I thought, you know what? Now my life is for sure over. So police officers came. They made me wait outside while they figured out what might have happened to him. And then my brother and sister got home, and they said, Nick, you can't drink anymore, and you can't kill yourself. Like, you just can't do this. Like, you got to get it together. My dad used to tell me too, you got to get it together. And I wish someone would have given me a book that was titled, Nick, this is how you get it together. Because no clue, not a clue. So the first thing I did after they told me that I couldn't do those two things was to do those two things. I went out, I got drunk as I possibly could, and I had been saving up medication just in case something like this would happen, so that I had a way out. And my sister figured it out before I could get all the way through the suicide attempt. And she said, Nick, are you going to kill yourself? And I said, yes. And I said, I don't, basically, I said something like, I don't know how you guys are getting through this. And she said, they sat me down, had a huge, long conversation with me. And they said, you know where you're going? And by they, I mean, my brother was there too. And I said, yes, can I pack a bag? And they said, yes. And I was in the hospital again. And I was like, you know what? I may be an idiot, or I may be, a bad person, but I'm not crazy. Like, these people are crazy. And they put me in this place with crazy people. Like, what is, like, this is why I'm not getting better. And then I was in my room one night, and I came out, and I was looking around, and I looked, and I really looked hard for similarities in my struggle and other people's. And I thought, these people aren't crazy, and neither am I. And there's no such thing. And we all have been dealt really difficult hands, and we didn't know what to do. And so I decided then, with no place to live, I had no place to go, I had no money really, that I was gonna dedicate myself to helping other people not have to go through this. And the only thing I had was my own story. And so I became a part of NAMI when a friend of mine said she spoke for the Ending the Silence program in schools. That's how I started. At first I said absolutely not, because my idea of recovery was being able to meet you, and you have no idea that anything ever happened to me. That was my idea of recovery, to get to that place where you wouldn't know I struggled. But like that quote I shared in the beginning, like, it's my struggle has become strength for other people. It still surprises me that that happens. But I never would have found it if I didn't start talking about all the things I was ashamed of most in front of people, and then have other people come up to me and give me hugs and say thank you. And I started talking about all the things I started learning about mental health, that, the signs and the symptoms, and that there is no look to mental health, and there is no color, there is no gender, there is no anything, that we all have mental health, and that mental illness can happen to anybody. Lots of external factors, but it can happen to anybody. And these are not news to me now, but they're still news to some people. So continuing to do this work and to spread the word and to support people and to start new programs at our NAMI affiliate in Bucks is what keeps me in my recovery and what has been my purpose. And I think Reggie touched on it too. That after his suicide attempt, like that didn't even begin to solve the problems. So treatment has been extremely helpful for me. Having a therapist give me a safe space that I could talk about my trauma and work through it. Medication is part of my journey, not everybody's, but lots of us. But I'll tell you what, sharing my story and having this purpose with NAMI is what keeps me alive. So I am so grateful that all of you have come and join us at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, which it's now probably later. I can't see the time. But I wanted to have some space for questions. But first, to really, really, really thank you for coming and listening to us speak and being a part of NAMI and being a part of our family, especially during the pandemic. We've seen a lot of you. So there's not really enough thanks I can give you. But so I'm going to share a little tidbit. When I was in my recovery, another highlight of it was I gave a speech at my sister's wedding. I also found 150 pounds in my recovery in the beginning. When I got sober and when I started, getting myself together. So this is me a little thicker, giving a speech at my sister's wedding, one of my proudest days. This is me. I could tell you this is me now as NAMI man. I got to meet Tipper Gore at a convention. I don't have my mom anymore, but I have a different family. This is my boss, Debbie. Without Debbie, I probably wouldn't have gotten through a lot of what I've been through in the good part of my recovery. It's not all good days. She's an amazing person. And then there's even little NAMI kids too. So there's NAMI boys and NAMI girl, who that's amazing. So that's a gift of recovery, that I can give a superhero a personality, and then kids get to do it too. And I visit kids in hospitals and they write thank yous, and I tell them that they're superheroes too. And trauma and addiction ran in my family until they ran into me. And that is the moral of the story. But you are gonna face some things that are too difficult to deal with alone. But you were never meant to deal with them alone. And it's my privilege, as I'm sure it's Reggie's, to be here to support you through those things and to help you find your recovery. Here's our stride, our big walk. It's going to be in October. This is how we pay for lots of our programs, but it's also a very cool day where we celebrate recovery. I put this in here because I'm very excited to have an event in October. I cannot wait. And then here's all of our information and where I will open it up to some questions for you. So here's our helpline, 1-866-399-NAMI. Our website is namibuckspa.org. Our social media is NAMIBucks on all the platforms. And Debbie's email is info@namibuckspa.org. And mine is nami@namibuckspa.org. All right, so I'm going to stop this share so that we can see each other again and I can see the chat. And I am also going to allow everyone, you can unmute if you would like to ask a question. And I have some in here. So Reggie, I think the first couple questions are for you. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
So would you mind sharing any books that have really helped you?
In the beginning, around that time, it was, and I don't remember the authors, but it was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was The Magic of Thinking Big. And then one wasn't a book, but it is a book, but I didn't read the book. I watched the documentary. It was The Secret. And just changing ideas and manifesting things that you want, even with like being healthy, is like, what does healthy look like, and working towards that, mentally healthy anyway. And so those was 3 things that early on played a part.
Hmm. All right. And there's another mention of another book in here that's very helpful for families in particular. It's called I'm Not Sick and I Don't Need Help, and it's by Xavier Amador.
Mm.
So that's another one. He spoke at a couple of our conferences. He's a pretty cool guy. He's a little guy. All right. Another question for you, Reg. I want to know your favorite coping skills that help you with anxiety.
The support groups help a lot. Facilitating and participating. I think I see one of our group facilitators, Candy, in here, and just those conversations. Uh, they help a lot because it creates the space to have those conversations. And then one more recently that I recognize that is when I'm really anxious, I need something to put my attention on. And so I try to find like big projects that I've been meaning to get done, but I don't never find the time, or I'm, too stressed. I've put a lot of energy into it, and it's kind of like, mellows me out and balances. And then medication helps as well with like going to the therapist and the psychiatrist.
Mm, yeah. I'll share some of mine too. Um, and it's a quote. I love quotes, but there's one that says, I don't know who said it, but if you don't know what to do with yourself, help somebody else. And that's corny, kind of, I know, but sorry if you think it's corny. But that's kind of what I do. And everybody knows I work all the time, but there's a reason for that too, because it helps me. Knowing that I help you also, it's a diversion of my attention from my own thoughts and my own feelings. Sometimes I just told you what I lived through. So did Reggie. That was a lot. So sometimes I need to like really not think about that. And I would rather think about you and what I can do for you. So that helps a lot. Like little things like exercise too for anxiety. My anxiety in particular, I speak for myself. Like today, I knew I had to do this. I always get nervous before I do this stuff, no matter what.
Mhm.
And I got on my elliptical, and one of the best things I did for myself. And I do a little weightlifting too. That seems to like get rid of anxiety for me. Not completely, ever completely. I think that's an unrealistic expectation sometimes, to get rid of things completely. But a realistic expectation is, woof, weights. Yes, I don't have, I'm less anxious. It really helps. And if I'm in a place where I'm panicked to the point that I'm gonna pass out, I feel like, or I get lightheaded and I dissociate, um, I do like anything that's around me that has something to do with my senses, like sipping. I always have drinks. Here's a secret too. I always have like 3 different drinks. That helps me with my anxiety, like holding ice cubes, like taking a bath, like something with your senses helps me. There are sensory exercises too, where you look around and you count, 5 things I can see, 4 things I can feel, and make it up. just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things I can see. If there's too many, not enough things, then, okay, how many things can I smell? Things like that, little sensory exercises to bring you back. All right. So question for Reg, how long did it take to realize you need help, and how long did it take to accept help? Did you have concerns about taking medication?
That's a heavy question because the first thought that came to mind is I'm still going through it as far as like accepting and realizing that I need help. Sometimes I don't even realize it until Nick say, "Reg, like I'm here. Like if you need help, I'm here." And it's like, wait, I do need help now that I think about it. So it's like an ongoing process. Medication in 2020, it was the first year that I decided to take medication because I was, there was a stigma against medication as well, and using that and how it. So I was always against it. But last year was the first year I tried that, and then even during my journey to recovery, I still didn't get help. Honestly, because of I'm willing to go get help. It was offered to me. It was like, hey, we're giving out free therapy to men of color, and I'm like, well, why not try it? So it wasn't like I even went and sought it. It was like presented to me, and I went. Almost like the NAMI does with the groups. It's almost like the teacher comes when the student is ready. That quote stick with me for the longest, and it's like the help was there. It was ready for me. It was like I just need to participate in my own recovery. And then there was another part to the question that I feel like, so I never really, got through it.
Yeah. Did you how long, like, total, like, like when you realized before you went and like did it?
I got my first therapist in 2018, and that was right before my car accident. So from my son is 8 years old, so that was in 2012. So I still didn't get help for those 6 years, 6 or 7 years, even before that. And that's the other part that I had to learn too. You can't just Google something and think you're healthy, and be like, and that's what I think had happened. Like I had Googled and I thought I was okay until I was going through things with relationship and going through different trials and tribulations. That's when I'm like I went in and got and sought the help that I needed. So for the first therapist, it was from 2012 to 2018. It took me 6 years to get my first therapist, and then even now I just got my first medication last year. So it's an ongoing process of like, all right, let me, even try different things in that space, and just trial and error over and over. And that's why I call it my journey through my recovery and not to my recovery.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have concerns about taking medication every single day. Every day. I mean, either it was the way I was raised, or, who we are as human beings trying to be strong. Like, can I do it without it? I take an antipsychotic medication, which, people hear that and they're like, oh my God. Well, yeah, my brain tries to kill me all the time. So yeah, I take something that helps keep me alive. Like, people take insulin, people take, blood pressure meds and heart meds and stuff. I got to take an antipsychotic, but that doesn't say that every day I wake up and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I love this medication and it's everything I hoped it would be. Never makes me tired, but I do have a really good relationship with my doctor where I can tell her, yeah, I'm sleeping and sometimes I'm not sure if I'm tired or I'm depressed, or, because my brain isn't, like, I can't see it. And so it helps to be able to test my reality with other people. And often it's with a mental health professional, because they can say, okay, well, Nick, we'll hold out for a couple weeks. And if it's still like that, we can lower something or increase something. Like if I'm not sleeping, because part of schizoaffective is I have manic times and depressed times. And so, helps to really talk about it too. Not that it's easy. Next question. Oh, it's not a question. I can relate with being bullied in grade school and being the butt of all the jokes. Well, yeah. And nobody has a solution to the bullying. But I think, we're doing special support groups in a school in Bucks County. And we have like the whole 8th grade and the whole 7th grade. And we split them up. And people really, kids especially, like we're adults and we don't know everything about mental health and how bullying really affects people. So kids don't either. But what they do understand is when one kid, one student explains and has the courage to say, you guys make fun of me because I get good grades and I'm smart. That makes me feel like my life is a mistake, or makes me depressed, or makes me not want to go to school at all. Or, I tried to fail in school so that I would be cool. I mean, I tried everything in school to be cool. It was, didn't work. It still didn't work. I'm still not, but you know, at least as an adult, there's a little bit of a reprieve with the harassment and the bullying and stuff, but that's something we really need to take more seriously. And another, what? Thank you for sharing that too in the chat, that you were bullied. Because
Nick, that's the other part too. Like, we don't talk about like adult bullying as well. Like, I feel like
no,
there's adult bullying just as much as there's like bullying in school.
yep, there is. And it's, what do you think? I mean, like kindness, kindness and compassion, even when it's hard, it's hard. It's hard. We're busy. We're adults. Empathy, even if you can get there, that would be great. A hand up would be great. I don't know how you're feeling, but I'll sit here until you figure it out, or, something, anything. Um, you know, NAMI is a great way for us to do that for the community, but we got to get that, integrated into a culture too. But when everybody else admits that they get bullied too and everything, and we talk about that, first of all, it makes us feel like we're not alone. And then it kind of, like holds a mirror up. Like if we're all getting bullied, and we're all here talking about how we had to live through it, then like maybe let's, do a little something about it. We shouldn't have to threaten legal action for people to do things about bullying and harassment. Well, we enjoy you too, so thank you for that comment. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions.
I see one in here for you, Nick. Someone was sharing their story. Maria, I don't know if you see that question at 405.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you too for thanking us. My son is in the hospital. Oh, he has schizoaffective too. Okay. How long did you accept you have an illness that needs treatment? Have you stayed in treatment with counseling and meds consistently? Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, I will tell you that it took me like 10 tries with professional mental health help to stay in it. Because I mean, I kind of figured if I went to the doctor and I went to the therapist a few times, I'm probably better now. And if I start to feel better, I kept dropping out of treatment. And I would see, for me, I would go back to like the drinking and everything, because that helped. That made me feel better, which is not good. And it was not good for my health either. But I have been consistent with therapy and meds, and I made a commitment to treatment when I understood it too. That I understood that I don't have to like go in and impress my therapist, and talk to her about stuff to make her think I'm doing well. Like I actually have to present as I am there. and talk about, what I'm actually going through. A good understanding of using mental health services for what they are, like use the therapist, use your doctor. It's hard though, that's not easy. But in advance, you get 15 minutes with a psychiatrist if you're lucky. So in advance, sitting down and, so that you don't forget, keeping a mental health journal, even for your therapist too, you only get 40 minutes, writing some things down so that you know what you're going to use that time for. That stuff doesn't come naturally to people. So, it really helps to understand. And when I did, I stayed in. And there are days that I don't want to do it too. I don't want to always do it. How about you, Reg? Do you always want to follow through with your treatment plan?
Listen, honestly, and this is speaking frankly, I in transition right now because I want to get the most of in my treatment. So I'm like, all right, I don't feel like I'm getting anything more from this person per se. So let me see who, if I need to be under somebody else. So I'm in transition of finding a new therapist at this moment, finding a new psychiatrist, because sometimes what worked before don't work continuously over time, and it's okay to fire your therapist almost and hire a new one. and so that's where I'm at right now within my treatment plan.
And that's not being mean to anybody who is a therapist or a counselor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Hopefully in their training, they understand that we're all human beings, and it's not a romantic relationship or a friendship. It's a professional relationship. And sometimes, Reggie, I'm so glad that you said that, because I mean, you don't have to stay with somebody who isn't serving you and your needs. And I mean, I've had a few since I've been in a good place in recovery, because sometimes you just need something different. You're right. What works once doesn't always work. Same with coping skills too. That's why it's great to have a huge toolbox of coping skills and people around you who can give you new ones. They don't work, forever. So, did I struggle with anxiety? If yes, what have been some of my coping skills? I think I mentioned that earlier a little bit. That so what I will say this time though is exercise, the physical movement and exercise, going outside sometimes. I'll find myself during the day, I'll say, at 8 in the morning, I'm going to exercise. And then I sit down, I start working. And at lunchtime, I'm like, all right, at lunchtime, Nick, at 12 o'clock, you're going to take a break from work, and then you're going to get up and exercise and go on the elliptical and do stuff. And then I'm like, all right, well, might as well get some work done. So then at 7 o'clock, when I'm really done working for the day, then I can like really focus on the workout and like do a good workout. And then and then at 7 o'clock, I'm like, well, I'm hungry and I can't like work out right after I eat and stuff. And so then it's bedtime. And then it's the next day. So like, consistency is really important, but one of the most important things with the coping skills is I've learned is to forgive myself when I forget to use them or I don't use them, or I'm human. So self-forgiveness is something that I really, really, really struggle with. I'm really hard on myself. So, that's another, I don't know if that's a coping skill, but any other questions in here?
I see one last one. Everything else was thank you, and thank you all. They were encouraging us.
Yeah. How do I go about sharing my story? You reach out to us at NAMI, and this In Our Own Voice is a training, and it's mostly online, where you kind of learn to get your story together and put it together cohesively and then tell it. And and you learn to tell it in such a way that it doesn't, send somebody into, a tailspin and trigger them. Hopefully ours didn't, I hope not. But if it did trigger you, there's a support group at 6:30, or you can email and let me know if you need to talk or anything like that. But yeah, just reach out to us. And on our website, there is a Get Involved tab where you can apply to be a volunteer. There's 3 employees at NAMI total. So we all work quite a bit. So with the volunteer engagement and everything, that's technically part of my job. I could do a better job with that. They're just like I said, there's not enough hours in the day, but I'll do my best to get you involved. And if you'd like to be, and I'm one of the trainers for that. So I'll work with you on your story and get you set up with the online training. There's other things that you could do with NAMI too. You can, if you're under 35 years old, you could speak with our Ending the Silence program with Lori. If you're over 35, or even, if you want to do this and you're under 35, you're welcome to. Any age can do In Our Own Voice. Leading our support groups, being trained to lead our support groups. You can become a mentor, working with a trained facilitator to learn about how the support groups work until a training comes up. They're through the state usually. And we have, events and activities that we do where we need, like for the Stride in October, on October 10th, which is our walk. I'm going to need quite a few of you in person to come and help if you want. So yeah, there's lots that you could do. You could help in the office, like the beautiful newsletters that go out. I do the newsletters. They drive me nuts, up a wall completely, but I need help sending those out. Things like that. Anything that you can think of that would help, like, we're a nonprofit, but it's a business. So we have the businessy stuff that we do too, that we need help with. Yeah, virtual help. It's a little tricky with the virtual stuff, but if I can think of something, I'll let you know, Emma. Absolutely.
Holly asked, do you need to live in Bucks County to volunteer remotely?
No, you don't. You don't have to live in Bucks County to participate in anything that we do. It's, we are called NAMI Bucks County, but what's cool about NAMI is that we all of us work together. So I talk to NAMI Montgomery County all the time, and NAMI Lehigh Valley, and NAMI Mercer County, New Jersey. There are NAMIs all over the place, and we all work together. So I'm sure some people from Bucks County who live here go and do things with other NAMIs too, and that's totally fine. We're just one big, it's an alliance. That's what it is. We're like a big network of mental health people who care. But yeah, any other recreation groups, game night, trivia night, etc. Emma, in the beginning of the pandemic, we were doing the game and movie nights every week. So something that we do struggle with a lot is it takes work and people, like manpower, to oversee all those groups. I'm the one who oversees them all. And right now we have like 130 or so, and that's a lot. And the decision that I had made with the fun games and then movie nights and stuff was that it was more important to everybody to have a support group where you could talk and do the things that you needed to do in a group, rather than the fun nights. And I had to make a decision. If you would like to volunteer to do one of those, that would be great. So just let me know. You have my email, I think. So yeah, just email me. So I did tell myself today that if you email me today, I'm not going to write back today, because today is going to be for some self-care. I'm gonna do it. I already exercised today. 'Cause that was my way of not being nervous, but oh, good, Holly. Thank you. Just email me. If you got a confirmation for the support group registrations, you have my email. If you don't, I'll put it in the chat at namibuckspa.org. Bam. That's our website too, namibuckspa.org. So any other questions anybody has for us? Be happy to answer. I feel like I used a lot of words just now.
I don't think so. You did a great job, Nick, holding it all together.
So did you. We're holding it down, Reg. I'm glad I finally did get to hear your full and complete story. And you know, I hope you know how much I appreciate you. I got a little emo in the beginning when I introduced you, so sorry about that.
No,
But
it's fine. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Reg, and I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for all of you. So you're part of our NAMI family. So I am going to wrap this up now, and hopefully, Mike, you're awesome. Mike is a certified peer specialist and at mental health partnerships in Bucks County. So certified peer specialists are amazing individuals who use their recovery and their lived experience to help other people find recovery and stay in recovery. And if it's a service that's available to you, it depends on your insurance and everything. Reach out to Mike and I will get you his contact information if you need to, but peer specialists are amazing. Reggie is a peer specialist too. So, you know, they're very helpful in recovery. They're a family support specialist too. But yeah, your story is not over and ours isn't either. And I'm going to keep doing the elliptical through everything. Oh, well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you for the really nice compliments. And
yes, please. And I know we didn't get to acknowledge them all, but they didn't go appreciated.
No, not at all. Absolutely. Thank you. You know what? Because on bad days, when we have bad days, we think about those things, you know, and when our head plays tricks on us and, you know, we think we don't matter, that kind of stuff really, really, really helps. So, and remember to give those to other people too.
And to yourself.
Those compliments and yourself. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And, you know, if you ever need anything, reach out to us. I can always connect you. So have a great rest of the day. And I will hope to see all of you soon.
Enjoy your weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
Have a good weekend, all.
You too, Mike. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Great stuff.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. You did a great.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye, Joanne. Bye, everybody. Thank you.